from Washington, D.C., I'm Alistair D'Souza. This is Washington Watch, a weekly roundup of the biggest stories from the United States and beyond the headlines. President Trump tearing into India yet again. Trump says it looks like the U.S. has lost India to a dark China. Hammering his point over, he says, may they have a long and prosperous future together. The comments come as Trump takes his tariff fight to the U.S. Supreme Court. The U.S. labor market shrank in June for the first time since the pandemic. Data shows hiring sharply slowed amid economic pressures tied to the Trump administration's policies on tariffs and immigration. The weak data increases expectations of a central bank rate cut this month. Trump blamed the poor numbers on the Fed governor for not lowering interest rates sooner. Russian President Putin is rejecting Western plans to send troops to Ukraine in the event of what still seems like an elusive ceasefire. France says 26 allies have pledged support, but Putin has a stern warning. He says any foreign forces would be legitimate targets, especially if they appeared now. There are no plans for an immediate deployment.
This is a crime that, by our Justice Department's own admission, has 1,000 victims. 1,000 victims. Do you know 1,000 people? Think of the enormity of that. Could you be okay with a crime happening in your community to 1,000 girls and young women?
In an emotional news conference, Epstein survivors have backed a push to force a House vote demanding the Justice Department release its records in full on the case of the convicted pedophile. One suggested that survivors would release their own unofficial client list if more documents are not made public. Trump has called the resurgence of the Epstein saga a Democratic hoax.
How did you find out over the weekend that you were dead?
President Trump pushing back against online rumors about his health. He says reports of his death over the previous weekend were false, noting he had given several interviews and shared what he called poignant posts on social media before reappearing in public Tuesday. U.S. President Trump taking another punch at India, posting on his social media platform. He says, quote, looks like we've lost India and Russia to deepest, darkest China. May they have a long and prosperous future together, unquote. Now, those comments made as U.S. President Trump takes his tariff fight to the highest court in the United States. Trump's appeal to the Supreme Court this week comes after a lower court ruled that an overwhelming majority of Trump's tariffs would be cancelled. Now, if the Supreme Court rules that President Trump has overstepped, it would be the first major instance of the justices reinstating and really restraining his authority, rather. Now, a ruling against the tariffs would also raise questions on whether the U.S. will need to pay back billions of dollars gathered so far. All of this, of course, has a direct impact on India, which faces some of the highest tariffs at 50%. Now, let's take a closer look at the story. We are joined for an exclusive interview by Nobel Prize-winning economist Abhijit Banerjee. Professor Banerjee, thank you so much for your time here on Washington Watch. Professor Banerjee, the U.S. Supreme Court ruling is seen as pivotal. Arguments could start in November with a ruling by the end of the year. How much should we really be holding our breath for this, especially for countries like India?
I'm mostly not convinced that the Supreme Court will do very much. I think I'm not even sure they will overturn the executive's action. They tend to be very protective of the executive's choices. And second, I think there are many other ways in which President Trump could continue, as he has in many situations, just found other ways to get to the same thing. So I'm pessimistic that unless he wants to change the policy, they will be changed.
Got it. He has other mechanisms in his armor in case that verdict from the Supreme Court that might come against him. Now, Professor Banerjee, you've been quoted recently as saying that India needs to think hard if Russian oil imports are worth it. There are many, of course, who will disagree with you, saying that India should not back down. This is a sovereign country buying oil that is not sanctioned. What do you have to say to them?
I guess we're a sovereign country, but we are in many ways we're also we make compromises all the time. We weren't quite as let's say leaning towards Beijing till recently. We had our own issues with, for example, the dam that's on the Arunachal border. All kinds. It's not that we don't make compromises. So I think taking the moral high ground only when it's kind of somehow convenient for us, or strikes me as being inconsistent with the way we behave. So we might as well be. It's a very much a pragmatist dominated world and a bit of a nasty place, and we have only limited choices.
And talking about being nasty, we saw President Trump make another caustic statement against India a few hours ago, saying that the U.S. has lost India to a dark China. I think many Indians have developed thick skin with these repeated remarks, really meant to poke and provoke. But Professor Banerjee, you talked also about China. Now, as far as those India-China ties go, the trade ties, how much do you think that will help ease the pain of the U.S. tariffs?
Directly, I think directly they're going to do relatively little because we have very different trade patterns vis-a-vis the US and China, and it's not easy to pivot. I think it's more importantly, it gives us a moment to go back to thinking about the RCEP and whether we should be part of a larger grouping that includes China, where I think there might well be benefits to being part of a grouping that has Japan and Australia and many others in it. And there we wouldn't be directly exposed only to China and therefore a little bit under China's thumb. And I think that might well be a question we want to ask ourselves: do we want to reconsider joining the RCEP? What are those compromises less onerous than the others will have to make?
Professor Banerjee, how do you think India and the United States can break this stalemate?
I don't know the answer to that question. I think this idea that is very much in the media that we've somehow offended President Trump by resisting his idea that he made peace. I just don't know what we can do. If that's the truth, then I don't know what we can do. I mean, if we really don't think that's the truth, then it's sort of we're stuck a bit on that.
Professor Banerjee, what about a phone call between Trump and Modi?
I think we should always keep lines open. I don't see a reason not to do the phone call. The question is whether or not that will make things worse or better. I mean, the question is whether the phone call will lead Trump to lean even heavier on the peace issue, and then will we be put in an even more uncomfortable position? That's, I think, the reason why the Indian government has been hesitating.
Professor Banerjee, thank you so much for your time here on Washington Watch. Abhijit Banerjee, Nobel Prize winning economist, joining us here on NDTV. Let's take a look at a story that has really caused a lot of questions being raised about the LA police, which shot a Sikh man recently. And questions really been raised whether things could have been done differently in terms of less force being used rather than firing a bullet that had him killed.
Stand by, stop! Stand by, crossfire, bro, crossfire. Got it. Stop right now!
A Sikh man, Gurpreet Singh, shot dead by Los Angeles Police Department officers after wielding a sword in what witnesses say appeared to be the Gatka, a Sikh martial art. The incident unfolded just after 9 a.m. at a busy intersection. Singh had stopped his car in traffic, stepped out and began swinging a 2-foot blade, described by police as a machete but identified by others as a double-edged Gatka sword. LAPD body cam video shows him in a vest, shorts and a blue turban moving in martial arts-like patterns, even cutting his own face at one point.
There is a guy on Figueroa in Olympic. There is a guy with a machete on it and with training people stopping the traffic. I think it's a black Muslim, but I just have to get away. But he's screaming right now and training people to that.
Alarmed witnesses told police he was threatening passers-by. 2 officers rushed to the scene, ordering Singh to drop the weapon.
Stop!
He refused, instead throwing a water bottle, then fleeing in his car with the blade waving outside the window. A short, chaotic pursuit followed. Singh struck multiple vehicles, including a police car, before stopping near 12th Street.
My side. Stand by.
There he stepped out and charged at the officers with the sword raised. Both officers opened fire, hitting him multiple times. Singh was rushed to hospital but died of his injuries. No officers or bystanders were hurt. Gatka, rooted in Sikh warrior tradition, is commonly performed at religious and cultural events. Analysis of the footage shows Singh's movements began in a controlled martial arts manner before spiraling into erratic behavior. The LAPD has defended its action, calling Singh's charge a clear threat to public safety.
We are still at the very early stages of this investigation, which can often take up to a year to complete, and our understanding of the incident may change as this additional evidence is collected, analyzed, and reviewed. We also do not draw any conclusions about whether the officers acted consistent with our policies and the law until all the facts are known and the investigation is complete.
But online and community voices are asking, why lethal force? Why not a taser? Could Singh have been taken alive? The case comes as LAPD faces growing criticism over how it handles mental health crisis, though Singh's mental state has not been disclosed. The department's Force Investigation Division is now reviewing the shooting as required in all police-involved fatalities. Authorities are appealing for more witnesses to come forward. A Sikh man dead in downtown LA. Police say they had no choice. The community asks, was there any other way? With Rhythm Arcadia, Bureau Report, NDTV World.
In an unprecedented move, the U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Services, the government agency responsible for issuing visas and green cards, is reportedly creating its own police force. According to a Wall Street Journal report, they will be allowed to make arrests and carry guns. Several hundred officers will be recruited. They will have the authority to arrest both applicants and attorneys. Now, until now, if you walked into the U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Services office, you wouldn't face such an action because enforcement was kept as a separate entity. Observers say the move might help fight fraud, but also makes people extremely fearful of releasing information. Now, in other immigration news, this month has begun to see a host of changes to visa rules. Travelers looking to apply for ESTA, a category used by countries which enjoy a visa waiver program, will see a 90% fee hike of $40. The change takes effect from September 30th. ESTA doesn't apply for Indian passport holders, but would apply for NRIs holding, say, a British or Australian passport. Now, meanwhile, starting this week, say goodbye to interview waivers. Get ready to bring your kids along with Dada and Dadi to the US visa office. Until now, many visa applicants under the age of 14 or over 79 were exempt from interviews. That's a change that affects those on H-1Bs and student visas as well. With the greater consular scrutiny due to these interviews, it's a move that, of course, impacts many. Now, turning to a story that will send a chill down your spine. An elderly couple have survived a freak accident while they were eating at a restaurant in Texas. A person driving an SUV thought the vehicle was in reverse, but that wasn't the case. Instead, the SUV crashed into the window of the restaurant. An elderly man was on the phone talking to his son while it all happened, so the son actually heard it all in live time. The man and his wife are now safely back home in Maryland from Texas. In an exclusive interview, here's what Raj and Kala, along with their son, told me.
Having dinner, I remember I heard the big noise. Then the next day, I was on the floor. I see the wheel going by passing me. So immediately I thought of him. I rushed other side to see him. Other side, I went around and other people also came, and I saw his hand. Kind of really, when seeing his hand, then I saw him, he was bleeding. I don't know where the blood comes from. That's why I'm not able to talk. Because every time when I talk, it's kind of pain. I thought he's gone. I lost him. That's what in my mind first came into my mind.
Clearly a miraculous escape. Raj, what happened to you? What really prevented you from getting under the vehicle?
I was pushed by the vehicle and all the furniture, and the windows are covering me. So it go to the end, and it come up to this level. I thought I am home. So that's the time, luckily the vehicle stopped.
He didn't see the vehicle until he came
Until
out.
I came out. Initially, I thought there was a bomb blast or something is happening. And, then on the same time, the telephone fell on the ground. And my second son, he was listening, she is screaming and everything. He was panicking. So he called him. Then both of them were panicking.
Atikan, when your brother told you that he was on the phone and this is what happened, did you have any clarity on what in the world was really going on?
So he had two phones on him when he at the time, and just to amplify how loud I heard my mom scream, he wasn't even on speakerphone. Just hearing your parent scream like that, it's quite traumatizing. Normally, my mom, she struggles to get up, but
I don't know how I got up like that fast. I realize now it's only in my mind about thinking about him only, because
yes,
he was sitting in front of me.
Indeed, Kala, but here he is with you still, so that must be extremely heartening, of course. We have to look at the bright side of it, really a miraculous escape. Raj, what do you think saved you?
Because this car came in, all the furniture and windows are on front of the bonnet. Furniture were pushing in, all my body is squeezing up, and luckily, close to my end, the car stopped.
So you mean the table acted as some kind of buffer that helped save your lives?
When you look at it, I was boxed by so much of furniture all over the place. there was so much fun.
Raj, could this have been avoided?
Because as an engineer, I am an engineer. I am working for a heavy manufacturing industry. When I look at it, the first thing, and he's also an engineer. We talk about it. I told him this could have been avoided if they do have some barriers or the bollards, to protect.
And so, Raj, what you said was on the outside of the restaurant where the car was parked, you think there should have been some kind of metal barriers that would have prevented the car from ramming through the glass. Is that correct?
Otherwise, they should remove those parking lots. If they cannot put street parking, they should take it out. This is going to happen again if we don't do anything, because there may be people, they are going to make mistakes. I told my family, we will never go and sit on a place where we have a similar parking. We will never go.
Never sit by a restaurant window where there is parking without a barricade in front of it. Totally understand that. Again, thank you so much, Raj, Kala, and Atigan for joining us here on NDTV. Time for some other news in brief. Tesla's board has proposed a pay package that could make Elon Musk the first trillionaire, but he would need to grow the company's stock 8-fold over the next decade to earn it. Trump plans to rename the Defense Department to the Department of War, a name used until just after World War II. He says defense is too politically correct and prefers the traditional title. And former U.S. President Joe Biden has undergone skin cancer surgery. The 82-year-old, who has faced multiple cancer diagnoses in recent years, was recently seen with a wound on the right side of his head. And finally, Washington has a new mystery on its hands. A viral video appears to show a black bag being tossed out of a White House window. President Trump says, "Don't believe your eyes, it's an AI fake." He insists the window actually doesn't even open and that each one weighs about 600 pounds. Experts, however, say that the video looks very real and likely linked to some construction work, but in true Trump fashion, he joked, if something really bad happens, just blame AI, so America and the world may really never know whether the bag was trash, construction rubble, or just a deep fake.
Hi, Dr. Saini. Hey, good morning. Come in.
Many of my patients are Indians, and we've definitely seen a surge with that population. I'm Dr. Kavita Saini, licensed clinical psychologist. Unprecedented times it is. This situation is causing anxiety, it's causing depression. Given the current situation with the administration where they are clamping down, now the documented people are also worried, and so are the undocumented. In the last 2 weeks, how often have you been bothered by any of these problems? Feeling nervous, anxious, or on the edge?
Maybe 4 times, I would say.
4 times in a week?
Yeah.
So the Indian patients are constantly worried about, oh my God, I'm sitting at home. What if someone comes and gets me? And this is also the ones with green card holders, because there have been some instances where people have been taken away by ICE because they had a former misdemeanor. They're constantly worried that, oh my God, my uncle, my chacha, my mama, my masi, someone is not documented and they will be taken away. Some of the patients that come in, they're documented, they don't have an issue, but they're worried about the extended families.
My son is a huge impact for him. If you're stepping out and if somebody suddenly asks you for your visa or your ID, I can't give the passport in my kids' hands when they're going out, because if they lose it, then that's a huge risk. So they usually don't step out much. So that is also impacting their they're getting socially very isolated.
Indians in India have this whole rosy picture of the picket fence and all the Indians being documented and doing extremely well. But there is a certain pocket that is not documented for them to get deported and things like that without any warning. They'll just be picked up and taken away. So especially those people are very fearful. a lot of the Indian patients used is substance abuse. Either it's drinking, and with marijuana available, very, very not so good coping skills are going to put them in trouble. And that is what I am most worried about. This whole situation is no longer something that is not a reality. It has become a reality. It's no longer just an irrational fear. This is a fear that has become rational for the Indian patient.
Thank you, Dr. Saini. Welcome.
That's it for Washington Watch. The news continues here on NDTV. For the latest updates and breaking news, subscribe to NDTV's YouTube channel. I'm Alistair D'Souza.